Chapter 14. Farewell, true friend. Magwitch was taken to the police court the following day. His trial would have been proceeded immediately, but an officer from the prison ship he once escaped had to be summoned to identify him. On my arrival, I had gone directly to Mr. Jaggers to retain his assistance on the prisoner's behalf. He told me that the case would be wrapped up quickly once the identification was complete. I also told him I had decided not to tell Magwitch what had become of his wealth. I had no claim on his property, and I finally resolved that my heart should never be sickened with the hopeless task of attempting to establish one. After 3 days, the witness arrived and confirmed his identity. Magwitch was officially committed to stand trial at the next session, which would come on in a month. In this bleak period of my life, Herbert came home one evening looking troubled. He told me he would soon leave for his new business house in Cairo. "Have you thought about your future?" he asked. "No, I haven't dared to," I admitted. "Well, our company needs a clerk who can eventually become a partner. Clara and I want you to join us and live with us after we marry. We'll do everything we can to make you happy. You'll fit in perfectly." I thanked them both sincerely, but I couldn't commit, not while Magwitch needed me. We agreed to leave the matter undecided for another 2 or 3 months. Magwitch remained ill in prison the entire time between his committal and the trial. He had broken 2 ribs, and they had wounded one of his lungs. Too sick to stay in regular prison, he was moved to the infirmary. I visited him daily, though I saw no signs of recovery. He became weaker and thinner by the day. He seemed weary of life, but accepted his fate quietly, with humility and regret. Sometimes he hinted that he wondered if he might have turned out better in different circumstances. He was humble and contrite, and never complained. When the sessions came round, the trial came on at once, and when he was put to the bar, he was seated in a chair. But nothing could undo the fact that he had returned to England after being transported for life. So they found him guilty and sentenced him to death. Rising for a moment, he said, "My lord, I have received my sentence of death from the Almighty, but I bow to yours," and sat down. My daily visits became shorter as he was more tightly guarded. Still, no one treated either of us unkindly. "Are you in much pain today?" I asked once. "I don't complain of any, dear boy," he whispered. He had spoken his last words. He smiled, and I understood his touch to mean that he wished to lift my hand and lay it on his breast. I laid it, and he smiled again and put both his hands upon it. Time passed unnoticed until I realized the prison governor was quietly standing nearby. He whispered, "You don't need to go yet." Gratefully, I asked if I might speak to Magwitch again. The governor nodded and waved the officer away. "Dear Magwitch," I said softly, "can you hear me?" He gently pressed my hand. "You once had a child you loved and lost." A stronger pressure on my hand. "She survived. She had good people looking after her. She's now a beautiful woman, and I love her." With his final effort, he raised my hand to his lips, then let it fall gently onto his chest. A peaceful expression passed over his face, and then he was gone. I could say nothing better at his side than, "O Lord, be merciful to him, a sinner." Now that I was wholly left to myself, I gave notice of my intention to quit the chambers I lived in. I was in debt, and had scarcely any money. I felt that I was falling very ill. For a day or 2, I lay on the sofa or on the floor anywhere where I happened to sink down, with a heavy hand and aching limbs, no purpose and no power. Through the haze of fever, I kept seeing men looking at me. As my illness worsened, familiar faces blurred until only one remained constant, Joe's. After I had turned the worst point of my illness, all other forces and features changed, but one did not. I took courage one day and said, "Is it Joe?" And the gentle voice answered, "Yes, old chap, it's me." Joe laid his head down on the pillow at my side and put his arm round my neck in his joy that I knew him. "Dear old Pip, old chap," said Joe. "Oh, Joe, you break my heart. Strike me, tell me of my ingratitude. Don't be so good to me, I don't deserve it. I've been so ungrateful." Joe's eyes were red with tears when he came and held my hand, and we were both happy. My recovery had made him so happy that he wished to write to Biddy and give her all the news. I was happy to note that Biddy had taught him to write. Not to make Joe uneasy by talking too much, I asked him about Miss Havisham the next day. Slowly, Joe told me she had died, and most of her fortune had gone to Estella. £4,000 had been given to Matthew Pocket because of what I had told her about him. This brought me comfort. It was the one good thing I had managed to do. As I slowly regained my strength, Joe continued to care for me in his simple, loving way. I felt like a little boy again. Joe had heard about my patron and asked me not to dwell on it. But as I improved, I noticed something strange. Joe began acting less at ease. One day as we walked together in the garden, I tested my strength. "Look, Joe, I can walk by myself now." "Don't overdo it," he said kindly, "but I'm glad for you, sir." The last word grated on me. I worked no further than the gate and asked for Joe's arm, walking back in thoughtful silence. We had a quiet Sunday and I told Joe I was thankful to be ill. "It has been a memorable time for me," said I. "Likewise for myself, sir," said Joe. That night he came into my room to check on me. "Are you feeling as strong as you did this morning?" "Yes, Joe, quite strong." He smiled, patted my blanket, and said hoarsely, "Good night." Next morning, feeling stronger, I dressed to go to his room and surprise him, but he was not there. His box was gone too. I hurried to the breakfast table and found a letter for me. "Not wishful to intrude. I have departed, for you are well again, dear Pip, and will do better without. Joe. P.S. Ever the best of friends." Enclosed in the letter was a receipt showing my debts had been paid. Joe had done it, quietly and generously. His name was written at the bottom.